In 2022, Jennette McCurdy told the world her mother had weaponized her career against her since childhood, and that what happened behind the scenes wasn't what anyone thought. She wasn't the only one. 8 child stars, different decades, different stories. But listen closely, and they start to sound the same. If stories like these stay with you, consider subscribing. This is what they said, and it's hard to unhear. Most people knew Jennette McCurdy as Sam Puckett, the sharp-tongued best friend on iCarly. For years, that's all she was. Then in 2022, she published a memoir, and she described a childhood that barely resembled the show's laugh track. My whole childhood, my mother convinced me that if I stopped acting, our family would lose everything. She managed every dollar I made. She decided what I ate. She called it love. McCurdy wrote that an unnamed producer at the network, referred to only as the creator, gave her alcohol as a minor. That when she tried to quit, she was offered a settlement, a substantial one, contingent on silence. She turned it down. She wrote the book anyway. What makes this case the foundation for everything else? McCurdy didn't describe Hollywood as careless. She described it as calculated. And she's not the only one who described it that way. Alyson Stoner appeared in dozens of projects before she turned 18. Camp Rock, Step Up, Cheaper by the Dozen, A Working Machine. In 2018, she wrote an open essay for Teen Vogue. In it, she described what sustained child stardom actually costs. I was treated as a product. My emotions, my body, my mental health, they were parts of someone else's business. She described being pushed into adult-coded performances as a young girl. Sexualized imagery on magazine covers. A team of adults who framed her discomfort as unprofessionalism. Nobody told her she could say no. Nobody told her what no even meant in that context. Stoner later said that years of the industry shaping her identity made it nearly impossible to know who she actually was. The industry didn't just take their labor. It took the part that knew who they were and replaced it. Mara Wilson was the little girl from Mrs. Doubtfire and Matilda. America adored her. Then, as she entered her teens, Hollywood's interest evaporated. She's spoken extensively about what that disappearance felt like from the inside. The industry loves children who are small enough to control. The moment you start having opinions, the moment you grow, you stop being useful to them. Wilson has written about receiving sexual messages from adult men while still a child. Messages her handlers knew about and never addressed. She described it not as shocking, but as normal. Just background noise. That normalization is what disturbs her most when she reflects on it now. Not that it happened, but that no one treated it as a problem. If the adults in the room knew, and they did, what exactly were they protecting? Drew Barrymore was famous before she could read. E.T. made her a household name at 7. By 13, she was in rehab. She's been remarkably open about it. I was going to Studio 54 at 9 years old. Adults gave me whatever I wanted. No one said stop. No one was watching. She was emancipated from her parents at 14. She's described that as the moment she realized she had been parentless for years already. The adults in her life had been participating in her unraveling, not preventing it. Barrymore has said directly, the industry didn't accidentally fail to protect her. Protecting her was never the priority. This case is from the 80s. The system they're describing has been running for a long time. Demi Lovato spent years performing a version of recovery while privately suffering. Their 2021 documentary, Dancing with the Devil, broke that open. I was told what my story was. I was told what version of me was marketable. Every time I tried to be honest about what was happening, I was managed back into the narrative they needed. Lovato described entering treatment as a teenager, then being returned to a schedule that had helped break them down in the first place. handlers who treated mental health crises like PR problems. Stability, in their telling, was always reframed as a product. Lovato said they didn't know what a day off felt like until they were an adult. They genuinely didn't know it was allowed. Miley Cyrus built one of the most lucrative child brands in television history. Hannah Montana was a billion-dollar machine. She was its engine. She's been blunt about what that meant for her. I feel like I was robbed of a teenage experience, not because of fame, because of the expectation of perfection that came with it. And when I stopped being perfect, I was punished publicly. That's not normal. Cyrus has described performing Hannah Montana as smiling through pain, performing happiness as a job function. She said the public meltdown narrative that followed her Disney exit was shaped almost entirely by people protecting a brand, not a person. She's also said the standards applied to her physical appearance as a child were monitored, commented on, and enforced by adults who were not her parents. She was, in her own words, built to be consumed, not protected. Bella Thorne grew up on Disney Channel and has been more specific than most about what the culture around child performers actually looked like. Everyone knew. That's the part people don't want to accept. The assistants knew. The producers knew. The executives knew. It was baked into the structure. She's described being photographed in ways that made her uncomfortable as a minor, being placed in situations that should not have involved children, and watching adults in positions of authority choose not to intervene, not because they didn't see it, but because intervening would have cost them something. Thorne has described feeling as an adult like her entire adolescence was a performance staged for other people's benefit, not hers. She's not describing individual misconduct. She's describing collective awareness. That's a different thing entirely. Wil Wheaton was a 12-year-old on Star Trek, The Next Generation, beloved by millions, by his own account, completely alone. My parents were my managers. They took everything I earned. When I tried to push back, when I said I was unhappy, that I was struggling, I was told that I was ungrateful, that I was lucky. The abuse didn't come from strangers. It came from home, and Hollywood made it profitable. Wheaton has spoken about childhood trauma and the way the industry created structures that made parental exploitation profitable. He said the system didn't accidentally place him in harm's way. It was built in a way that made adults willing to trade their children's well-being for access. He's described standing on the set of a major production at 12 years old, having a breakdown, and being told by every adult in the room to get back in front of the camera. Nobody stopped filming. 8 people, 8 careers, decades apart, different networks, different genres, different kinds of damage, but the same language, the same silence, the same adults who were supposed to protect them and didn't. Jennette McCurdy's memoir became a bestseller. Wil Wheaton talks openly now. Some of them have healed. Most of them have said they're still working on it. But here's what none of them said: that any of this was an accident. They all said it was a system. They just said it in different ways. And none of them seem surprised that it's still running. That might be the most disturbing part.